Attention all Ground Zero radio fans, groundzeromerch.com.
You have entered the paradigm shift, a timely show with the current environment society is experiencing today. With important changes in our culture, we are being conditioned to change our way of thinking, catapulting us into a new, unknown future. Navigate with me, JP, as we journey through this new world every Saturday night between 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tonight's show is called Save Our Children. Special guest, Natasha Timpani. And Michael, this show's for you.
Ghislaine Maxwell's trial was a win for victims of sex trafficking because it really brought their stories out of the shadows into the spotlight. But at the same time, not all sex trafficking and not all trafficking cases look like the situation with Maxwell and Epstein. Human trafficking has really only been paid attention to within the last 25 years or so within the US and kind of around the world. And so the first law that was passed to combat sex trafficking was in 2000, and that was the Victims of Trafficking and Violence Prevention Act. And that is the big piece of legislation that allows the US government to try and fight sex and labor trafficking. The vast majority of victims do not report that they are a victim of trafficking because they may not speak the language of the country that they're in, or they may be too scared to report it, or they may not have resources. So, experts kind of generally agree that it's very, very difficult to really track how much human trafficking there is in the world. And we do have some statistics. So, for example, we have the US National Human Trafficking Hotline. The number of calls that they got from 2018 to 2019 increased by 20%. And so that shows that there kind of is a rise in trafficking. A lot of experts that I spoke with said that sex trafficking particularly has really been on the rise during COVID-19. One of the main types of victims of sex trafficking are young teenage girls, particularly those who are vulnerable, who might not have a support system. Maybe younger people didn't have as much supervision as they normally would, and that gave a lot more chances for predators to, try and talk to younger people on social media and get them to eventually become a trafficking victim. Some people think that it is the government's responsibility to monitor social media websites. And we've seen over the past 10 years a lot of meetings and a lot of hearings between the Congress and CEOs of social media websites about privacy and whether they're doing the best to protect their users. Some people think a new law should be passed. And so right now that's a big debate.
You are listening to The Paradigm Shift. JP here. Folks, we got a real problem with human trafficking, pedophiles. It's become a daily part of our life, whether you want to accept it or not. Thanks for being here tonight. I highly appreciate it. It's an honor to serve you on this show called The Paradigm Shift. It says here we are broadcasting on the Ground Zero Network, Ground Zero, groundzero.radio. Come on, JP, get with it, buddy. Get your setup in order. I want to thank you for joining me in this quest for truth, the quest for truth for our children, the quest to bring down the corruption in 2024. Believe me, folks, we have a responsibility to the truth. We do. We're in a war. The demons are attacking our children. So with that being said, you have a duty here to share that responsibility as a warrior to the children and share those links right now. groundzero.radio, groundzeromedia.org, or studiojfm.com. We are also broadcasting on the Aftermath, Ground Zero, Facebook, X, and Telegram accounts. So lots of places to see and hear the show. And as you know, we broadcast live Studio J in Rio Rancho, New Mexico at the iBug Guy Network Studios. iBug Guy, leader of pest control since 2013. I do thank everyone that uses the company. We're about 5 weeks away from the spring kickoff. Get on the schedule now. We are busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. That's coming. This is true. So if you use iBug Guy, please call now to get on the schedule because it will be very busy. Now, studiojfm.com is our little internet radio home. You know, it's a place you can come for some of the best network programming. Clyde Lewis, Art Bell, Dan Bongino, as you were here before the start. Listen, if Rogan gets out of hand, we go to Bongino. And, man, that show was killing me, so I changed it. Sorry if you were into it. But Baby runs 24/7, 365 is the home of the paradigm shift. Check the website for programming and scheduling. Go to studiojfm.com for details. As we say, there's always something to listen to on studiojfm.com. And finally, if you're not a member of Aftermath, get with it, buddy. Come on. We have the goods, my friend. So get subbed with this show and a premium subscription at aftermath.media. Awesome, man. I mean, Ground Zero is awesome, man. It really is a great network. I'm really, really grateful that they keep me around, man. It keeps an old man happy. And I guess you can sub this show directly for $8 per month or $79 a year. So there you go. Helps the network, helps me. Dig deep, blah, blah, blah. We're going on and on here. I just want to say one thing, because there's a lot of infighting going on right now on the internet with patriots, and these big accounts. And I'm not a patriot. Believe me, I don't make squat doing this. I do this for the love of bringing it to you, man. I got a great business or 3 here, and they treat me just fine. They let me mooch off of it. Really, like when I started iBug Guy, it was just me. It wasn't all this. And I'm literally like a tech. I'm mooching off the company, begging the president for money. That's my wife. So anyway, it's not for me. I'm not in it for the money. I'm here to bring you the truth. Now, it is my responsibility to let you know as staff at Aftermath that you could sub this show. We're not being patriots, networks have responsibilities and, got to keep going if you like what we're doing. Tonight, folks, we are focusing on the children. As we said at the end of the year last year, we're going to be devoting a large amount of shows to the kids this year, to saving the kids and to holding the evil ones accountable. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to bring the dark to light and expose these criminals for what they really are. I mean, we have a real pedophile problem, people. It's unbelievable. Who would have ever thought it would be as bad as it is now? I mean, but yet here we are, learning a lot about a lot of people. Some of your faves, just saying. Let's not forget the reboot of America's Most Wanted airs on Monday. That's right. Megan Walsh ended the year with us telling us about what she went through as the daughter of John Walsh and his show, America's Most Wanted. It's a shame. We all loved that show. We really did. Everybody watched America's Most Wanted. Who would have thought that the man that was fighting for our children was the perpetrator of the sin of harming children? It's true. How does this happen? Well, let me tell you something, man. One way to protect yourself from people finding out the truth is to put yourself in the very public eye to sway the masses, you see. It's, look over here, not over there. That kind of thing happens. And it's just like that. These high-profile celebrities and such have been committing these crimes against humanity behind the lights and cameras right before our eyes. I mean, some of these people we love and adore, our whole life. I mean, to be shocked that these people would be involved in such a thing like that. I mean, mine was Robert De Niro, to be quite frank with you. I love the guy. I loved his movies, the bar scene in Goodfellas where he's just kicking that guy's butt. That was cool, man. Only to find out the guy is just he's not a tough guy. His true colors came out when he blatantly enthralled with the Trump hate mantra. I mean, such hate for Trump. Why? Why such hate? I'll tell you why. Trump has vowed to save the children and take these grotesque pedos out. He's vowed to put them where they belong. And as far as I'm concerned, hell is a perfect place for them. Well, I don't want to be fumbling around here too much. It bothers me too. Trump, Trumpity Trump. It's this one. Hold.
America, and we will destroy those cartels. They're going to be destroyed. And I will use Title 42, as we did for 4 years, to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries, and we'll do that immediately. America.
Okay, so there you go. Mr. Trump vows. Listen, this guy did it. This guy was the one that actually went after these people and had large amounts of arrests. A man dedicated to destroying this evil. This evil that is stripping the soul of every innocent child involved. This is evil that, in my opinion, deserves one thing and one thing only: to be cast from this earth with lead. I said it. These evil ones will get their reward when they meet their maker, let me tell you. There's so much hidden that needs to be exposed. So many of these pedo networks throughout the globe. I mean, it's amazing. It's a pitiful mess. And Mr. Trump vowed to clean this mess up and save our children and remove this evil from the earth. And he did when he was president, and he will do it again, because I strongly believe that the world is sick of the left, and they are. Well, they're going to pinch their nose and go vote for Trump because everything was better under Trump. I'm just saying. You don't got to love the guy. People are sick of this corruption, my friends, and, you know, they're definitely sick of the abuse of children. I mean, it's in the light now. We're seeing a lot of it, unfortunately, but that's what it's going to take to wake people up. What people didn't believe 10 years ago, they're believing now. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. You would not think 10, 15 years ago that these kind of, but the busts are real and they're happening. Overwhelming. Unbelievable amount of people doing this. It's terrible. I mean, how can a guy like John Walsh continue to mislead people with his show, America's Most Wanted? When you watch it Monday, let this be a reminder to you who this criminal really is. Megan has a podcast. She does it on Saturday night. I thought I turned that off. I hate that Discord stuff. Okay, there was a message. I don't do that during the show. Just saying. It's a shame. I mean, Megan she has a podcast on Saturday night investigating the alleged murder of her brother Adam. And she's all over X telling people about it and who her father really is. But, you know, people discredit these claims, and, you know, there's all kinds of stories and everything. But let me tell you, the power of blackmail, corruption, and money is what protects people like John Walsh, who's probably blackmailed himself. I used to like John. I mean, until I learned who he really is. And, folks, it continues to this day. The corruption, the organization of CPS and the business of legally stealing kids, at least that's what they call it. I say legally fictitiously. We know who these criminals are, and we know that we got to bring these pedophiles down. It's a huge network. It's going to be impossible in some people's eyes, but we're going to do it. And if you're dirty, you better start speaking up, because you know who you are, and there's people after you, people that are coming for you, and I believe there's good people in government. I do. Fighters, men and women. But the good news, folks, is people are waking up. They're finally seeing these superstars for who they really are. There's no hiding, folks. The truth is out there. And we don't have to do anything but release it. We don't have to defend it. The truth will defend itself. The truth does not care what the liar thinks. The truth does not have an agenda, nor does it need one. The truth is light, and the darkness cannot hide from the light. That's the beautiful thing. And in an age of cameras and citizen journalists, it's only a matter of time before we find you and end it now. Do it now. You think they will? Of course not. They're addicted. They're sick people. They're disgusting. Some people will see this message as a threat. Take it as you may. Our threat is surely a promise to take you down. We're not having it anymore. The child is the most innocent being, and you demons are destroying them by design. A sick design by sick people. And let me remind you, as God has said through his sacred word, it would be better to put a millstone around your neck and cast yourself to the sea than to hurt any of these little ones. It's a sick world, folks. I don't know. I just, honestly, old JP doesn't know how people do things like that. And, it's just terrible. Unbelievable. I mean, we're going to get into some real hard stuff tonight, so you better get a box of Kleenex, because if I got to play this one, it's going to, I won't say what it is, but when I was preparing it, oh my God. I mean, I broke out crying. It's just so sad. It's so sad. It's so sad to even think that humans would do these harmful things to children. But it's happened. It's happening. It's happening right now. The unfortunate thing. We're hearing a lot about tunnels lately. Everything's about tunnels. Tunnels under the synagogue in Brooklyn, claimed to be developed in 2020 due to COVID. Evidence showed been under construction for about 6 months. I mean, who really knows the truth? We don't get any good information. What you see on the big one-eyed monster, that's what you're supposed to believe. If you don't do your research, you're not going to know any other story. Well, anyway, they found children's high chairs, filthy mattresses, and some suspicious activity, books with blood that they said later wasn't blood, which they said later that it wasn't the Children's Museum, which you could do a simple Google search and see that it is. Ridiculous. The media is just, it's wretched. It's wretched. You need to get away from it as fast as possible. But, you got this situation in Brooklyn, and then, we get the shot of the rabbi popping out of sewer. I mean, what the hell is going on around here, man? All right, here for you. This is the footage of when the cops raided the place to get the construction workers in there to fill the tunnels, and these animals are destroying their own building. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. The viewers can see this studio, Jayers. Just hang tight. I mean, you got to say this is tunnels, okay? This is serious business. Unbelievable. The tunnels were recently discovered and at this Shabbat headquarters. You're seeing pictures of, it's filthy. It's terrible. Clothes hanging, I don't know, just debris, junk, children's high chairs, car seats, all kinds of stuff. This is part of like the basement area. Then the hole, it's not clear why the tunnels were built or what the purpose they serve. This hole they're going through now is what goes into this tunnel network. Unbelievable. We don't know, but here's another piece of footage. Property manager called in builders to fix the damaged walls. Guess the place was starting to get under stress. Shabbat Levitch students gathered at the building place to attempt to stop the work. There's your tax dollars getting spent on security because this thing's out of control. But it's a terrible thing. I mean, terrible thing. I don't want to hear any more of that. Why we hear so much about tunnels? Tunnels everywhere. I mean, you got this rabbi popping out of the sewer like a rat, literally. I mean, what was that rabbi doing down there? It doesn't make any sense. What was the purpose of these tunnels? Listen, I'm not an anti-Semite. I have many Jewish friends, and I dated a couple of Jewish women in my past. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about an act that has structural damage. Listen, you're taking away from the foundry of that building. Could have a catastrophe. I mean, the integrity of the building is compromised. And the building could collapse. Devastation could occur. They tapped into electricity. They tapped into water. None of it licensed, of course. It was filthy. It was disgusting. It was inhabitable. I'm not saying it was child trafficking. I mean, there's no actual really proof of that except for that museum across the street. But it's definitely some strange behavior here. And how many of these tunnels are buried under New York City right now besides this one? I mean, if a ragtag group of students could dig a tunnel under any building, what's to stop anybody else from doing this, especially pedophiles? a friend of mine, as we will call Stacy, who's about 98 pounds soaking wet. She works with the special forces in saving children from tunnels, just like this one. You know, just rough cut tunnels. And for obvious reasons, she declines to come on the show. It's real, folks. It's real. You know, they use her because she can fit into some of these small areas where these children are. I mean, people don't believe this is happening, but I'm here to tell you it does. You can believe what you want. At some point, you're going to have to wake up. I mean, it's for the kids. I mean, good men and women are saving these poor, abused children. And some of these kids never seen the light of day. It's true. It's true. You wouldn't believe it, though. Some people never will, I guess.
The ships Mercy and Comfort that were sent from Trump to New York, we just have confirmed information right now that they sent those ships, those highly equipped ships, to take care of children rescued from tunnel system under Central Park in New York.
How do you take 20,000 children in the middle of New York City without anybody seeing? They are being put into buses. They are given certain clothes. Some of them were taken out in boxes. When I go into the tunnels, I can't take my phone. And if you're going to do it, the psychopaths will eliminate you. So some pictures I saw that are real, and I was surprised to see them.
But there are many children down there.
Yes.
Do you have an idea of the number of children that we're talking about?
It's huge. It's numbers you can't comprehend.
That is alarming. That is alarming. It could be somebody just made that. But you know what? Maybe somebody did make it up. Who knows? I mean, maybe not. But it's a real problem. If you don't want to sit there and continue to believe it don't happen, it's happening. I mean, the rumor was that Trump sent those ships to assist with the shortage of hospital beds in New York hospitals due to COVID. Yet nobody with COVID entered the ships. You know, the one called Mercy was the one we heard about. We saw these huge tents set up in Grand Central Park. Apparently, the rumor mill says tunnels were burrowed under the park. If true, God help those poor kids. I mean, why do so many kids disappear? What evil network is behind this crime? I mean, you know, the last show we had of the year, Megan Walsh come on. She told us how CPS took all 4 of her children when she started to investigate the death of her brother, Adam Walsh. What happened to Adam Walsh? What you know, what you see is what they want you to believe. The original launch of America's Most Wanted was because of the death of Adam and his courageous father launching this show to bust child traffickers. But is this true? Megan tells us a very different story. Now, Megan does have a podcast. This was about a week after when she was on the show. I want you to hear this. It's interesting.
I think that it's also important to point out, you know, again, this hotelier aspect and the fact that, you know, despite the fact that my father tells you to your face and tells the public I was, you know, in the hotel business before Adam and I was making this big deal on Paradise Island, which we know is Meyer Lansky and CIA and at one point Resorts International, now Atlantis. And again, that hotel business. But, you know, CIA and Meyer Lansky is definitely human trafficking and all the other kinds of trafficking. Well, it's drug trafficking, but all the other trafficking that goes hand in hand, which number one is human trafficking, right. Due to the nature of drugs and hookers, right? So to put it briefly. But my point there is that, you know, again, we have my father telling the public that he was in the hotel business, he left big deals, all of it, but then the public perceives it somehow through the sorcery or the witchcraft, whatever we're going to call it, that, you know, these are 2 all-American, working class, no connections, you know, just random couple that had their son just mysteriously go missing by stranger danger, stranger serial killer, not stranger danger, but stranger top serial killer, known to confess.
Yeah.
Trying
Weird.
to keep straight. Yeah.
I know. Okay. So, you know, obviously the tie-in between your father and John Monahan, the story goes that dad was kind of this lifeguard guy sitting on the beach, and Monahan's son is out in the ocean and is drowning. Your dad saves his life, and Monahan kind of gives him, a hand and says, hey, I'd really like to have you part as my business. I can help you out. And he's just, I don't know how old your dad was at the time, 20, 21, 22, whatever, maybe a little older, who knows?
Yeah,
late 20s. Okay. Brings him in and kind of, climbs the company ladder, so to speak. And he gets involved in some pretty big projects, the building of a hotel. And I mean, I don't know, maybe that story's true, maybe it isn't. I've heard both sides of it, but the fact of the matter is Monahan is this character who's obviously a very wealthy man, and very influential. And we did talk briefly, I think it was 2 shows ago, about how Monahan, well, it seems like he had his hand in some investigations at some of these police departments. What is he doing running investigations or helping with investigations behind the scenes? He's not a cop. He's not a detective, but yet his palms are all over it. His fingerprints are all over it. So that's a little odd. So the tie-in here with your dad, and this is actually this was on Wikipedia. I don't know if it still is, but it says, in 1979, John Walsh managed the CIA mob Paradise Island Hotel on Paradise Island. He was a hotelier. And then it says in the summer of 81, Walsh was an official with Paradise Island Hotel and Casino in the Bahamas. Paradise Island was Hog Island. Huntington Hartford, heir to A&P grocery store, purchased the island and named it Paradise Island. Huntington's sister was married to spy Ivar Bryce, who lived on Long Island. His best friend was spy Ian Fleming, author of James Bond, and all 4 lived on the island at various times running ops. Huntington Hartford lost $80 million of his $90 million fortune, perhaps to the mob, through gambling or bad drug deals, and he sold Paradise Island to Resorts International, who Walsh worked for. Resorts International was a CIA mob joint effort. Intertel was Intel's security force, international security force, which ferried the Shah, that's not Shah, it's supposed to be SHAH, the Shah of Iran, not
yes.
worth $2 billion to Paradise Island. The Shah tried to purchase the island but failed. Interestingly, he died July 27th, 1980. Adam was taken 1 year later to the day. The Shah murdered over 60,000 people upon his departure from Iran. Is it possible that his loyal royal guards in revenge plot kidnapped Adam? I mean, I never really looked at that angle, but I guess anything's possible at this point.
Well, and this is where I also want to interject, Reagan is famous for Iran-Contra. So,
There you go. Wow, I didn't see that originally. A&P grocery store on the island. Okay, my grandmother, a little itty bitty Italian woman, worked 30-something years. This woman was she was a butcher. You didn't mess with grandma. She had the kindest little itty bitty woman you ever known. Wow, I'll be darned. Well, you see the enormity, folks, of this situation. I mean, would you picture Mr. America, John Walsh, as a child trafficker? I mean, well, there's a lot of surprises out there. And we certainly are learning the ugly truth as we go along. Now, I want you to know when you go back and watch this later that Megan's website is protectamericanfamilies.org. Notice her PayPal and her Cash App. It's in the banner on the bottom of the screen. Please help if you can. I mean, she is not only fighting to get her children back, but she is fighting for your children, because this could happen to any of you. I mean, just not my kids, right? I mean, it happens. Hotels, ranches, islands, all being used to traffic children internationally, avoiding American laws and such. These are high-level people, folks. Your government proven to be involved in human trafficking of children. It's true. But who would believe it? But look at the southern border. Oh, and we got a great guest coming on next week. We got a guy coming on who's actually doing the footwork. We've already confirmed, and the links have been sent, and he's going to fill us in on what's really going on at the border, and you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked at what you are paying for. It's unbelievable. Epstein's Island had tunnels. Eyesore Zorro Ranch here in New Mexico has an underground facility that's 20,000 square feet. You can drive a large box truck into it. I know because I know the guy that installed the 23 HVAC units, and we're talking big ones. Oh, that building, unbelievable. Unbelievable. The money that was spent on that place alone is disgusting. It's disgusting. God only knows what they were doing there. The rumor is that, Epstein was going to breed a class race of people using his sperm, impregnating these young girls. And God only knows. These are sick people. He's a sick man. It really kills me to do a show like this when, man, it's unbelievable that, we got poor kids stuck in tunnels right now. They're in the depths of hell while we're doing this show. It's true. It's true. And, it breaks my heart. It breaks my soul. I mean, the re-release of America's Most Wanted, we're supposed to believe that John Walsh is a great guy, a good guy, who's connected to Hunter, Biden. See? Obama, and on and on and on. It's the wall of shame, in my opinion. The man is indeed sick. Remember all this when you watched the show on Monday. And Reagan, I don't know, man. That one's going to hurt some of you. But as Megan pointed out to us on our show on the 30th or whenever that was, I guess it was, yeah. She stated that Reagan started the adoption process that is now the corrupt CPS today, stealing kids. Listen, I'm a big Reagan fan here, folks. I voted for Reagan as a Democrat. Yeah, first time I voted. My liberal girlfriend dumped me. It's a true story, dude. We just don't know who's involved. At what level? Corruption is based on terror. These people use these kids and they terrorize them. They abuse them. They rape them. They sell them all day long to all kinds of sick, demonic people. It's unbelievable. That is happening. Listen, folks, you didn't come here for the fluff job, okay? I'm delivering the goods tonight. And if this story's making you sick, good, because it makes me sick too. I get disgusted when I understand and I see and I don't actually, witness, but I'm saying the evidence and, researching. It's just unbelievable that these people are harming children in this way. Could there be child human trafficking tunnels under the White House? Sounds insane, right? Sounds too hard to believe. But when you think about it, what's really going on in the White House? Do you and I, the Mr. and Mrs. America that pay for the White House, know what actually is going on in the White House on a daily basis besides the cards they throw out and tell us? No, of course not. They lie about everything. They don't give a rip about me and you. Every single one. Ooh. Okay. Wow, did we get to that part of the show? Okay, I'm going to play you this. I have no choice because the clock's, we got time. I misnamed her on the show when Megan was on, calling her, I don't remember, but her name is Victoria. Angela, I was calling her. Her name is Victoria Martin. And, it's been, I guess, 7 years now since this has happened. And it's the most horrific, unbelievable encounter of child abuse that you're ever going to witness. And this is the cleaned up piece, and I'm telling you, if you do your research on poor little Victoria Martin, it'll break your damn heart. I'm not kidding. This poor child received the worst abuse that I've ever. I've seen some stuff as a kid in that group home, but this one really gets to the heart. Wow, I missed a cut. Wow, oh, I see. Yeah, so Tosh didn't know what she was coming on one way or the other, but she's pretty sick right now. And I even told her before the interview, "Are you sure you want to come on?" She's like, "Yes, we got to do this." I'm like, "All right." So I actually wrote more show, and that's where we're at. Maybe we don't have to play Victoria because that story just kills me. So I have a spot that says, in case Tosh doesn't make it, we're talking about the children, such abuse of our children. It's too hard to believe. Look at your kid. Look at your kids, folks. Make sure to keep them safe, seriously. It happens so quickly when a child disappears. And let's be clear here, folks. Children just do not disappear. These evil son of a bucks are stealing kids. Look at your child. Imagine that beautiful, innocent child of yours that God blessed you with in a situation of danger, harm, bad intent, unknown. Imagine how you feel in this situation how your kid would feel without their mommy and daddy. Honestly, it's real. It's not just kidnapping kids on the street either. Your federal and state governments are in cahoots to steal children. That's what they do. And they say it's legal. I mean, pathetic, disgusting. Oh, yeah, we're going to want to hear this one. Sick individuals, and sicker part of it is me and you fund it. Every single aspect of it. It's a damn miracle that this good land called America, this mighty eagle, is still standing with all the corruption that she endures every single day, especially in this one. Cops, counselors, hospitals, lawyers, judges, all in cahoots with the feds and the states, taking kids away every day. And we're not questioning it? Is my firm belief that every single one of these organizations called CPS or whatever 3 or 4 letter acronym they go by should be fully investigated. Start with it legally. Start with the laws. What laws are protecting these criminals? Because that has to stop. I mean, what rights do you have if these people show up at your door? You say, well, JP, I don't have any issues. We're a good family, you know. Watch this. Good family, my rear end. Whew, it's terrible what they're doing. Okay, I got to get the right one.
Here, Michigan's Child Protective Services investigates more than 90,000 reports of suspected abuse.
No doubt they save lives, but all too often attorneys say children are taken from innocent parents.
Tonight, 7 Action News reporter Kim Russo shows us why it's so important to know your rights if CPS comes calling.
We want to be clear. This story is not against Child Protective Services or police.
It should be.
People who investigate child abuse dedicate their lives to saving kids, and they do just that. But sometimes there are mistakes. It costs one woman everything. She wants to make sure people know it can happen.
There is no amount of compensation that can ever get back what I've lost.
Julie Balmer lost almost everything when she tried to do the right thing. When her sister said she couldn't raise her newborn son, Julie took in baby Philip and offered to adopt him. Then when he was 5 weeks old, he suddenly stopped eating.
When the results came back, they said that there was bleeding in the brain.
A doctor at the hospital diagnosed him with shaken baby syndrome. Julie, in her 20s, with few resources, found herself unable to pay a doctor to review that diagnosis at trial. She was sent to prison for 15 years. After almost 5 years in prison, the Innocence Project helped exonerate her. An expert found an MRI that proved little Philip suffered a stroke, not trauma. However, by then, Philip had been permanently adopted. She had no right to see him.
To be told that I would have no contact with him, you know, that's a cross that I'm going to bear for the rest of my life. You know, that's a heartache.
Do I think the system works? No.
Child Protective Services defense attorney Sonia Cannon says all parents need to be aware. Even the innocent can find themselves under investigation for child abuse.
You better contact an attorney, and you better do it immediately.
It can happen at a hospital with an unexplained illness, or if your child says something that raises a red flag at school.
We don't need a warrant. We're CPS. We don't need a warrant.
This is video posted online by a local mom investigated after her special needs son said at school she didn't feed him when she says she simply changed his diet. Would you know what to do? She told the CPS worker, an attorney told her to ask what the allegations were before deciding whether to let her in the house.
Who's telling her that?
The attorney.
Is that true? I don't know. Don't call these attorneys because they don't know what they're talking about.
Technically, this woman doesn't have to let her in her home.
Attorney Cannon says this is a big question parents have, and you can see why. She recommends parents ask the allegations and then, based on that information, decide should they call an attorney or let the worker into their home because the home will help prove the allegations are false. After all, while the investigator does need a warrant to force entry, if you don't let them in, they may ask a judge to remove your children pending an investigation.
We're in the state of Michigan. Do you understand what we do?
Yes, I do.
We can't remove children.
Julie says the devastating lesson she learned is don't let the fact you know you are innocent result in you letting your guard down.
So as a layperson, you put your trust in them, and you don't expect the system to fail. And unfortunately, the system failed. And I just happen to be a victim of that.
Attorneys say if parents do speak to a child abuse investigator, be it a CPS worker or doctor, it is not a bad idea to grab your phone and calmly say you plan to record the interaction so there are no misunderstandings. A lot is at stake.
The state has also provided this pamphlet to help educate parents about this process with the goal of protecting children. We'll have a copy of it at our website, WXYZ.com. In the newsroom, Kim Russell, 7 Action News.
Okay, folks. So these organizations, you know, you think you're safe? You think you're safe from these organizations, these people with power? I mean, Megan Walsh lost all 4 of her kids in the same way. You better lawyer up. This is a different world than back then in the day. These organizations make big money reselling these kids like they're a product. It's hard to believe. And when we have an issue where maybe the government's position is truly that they're there to help the children and protect them, make sure they're safe, are the employees of these such organizations on the same page with their employer? I mean, we have the abuse of power in these organizations that is proven over and over again. A complete revamp of the system needs to go down. I mean, this organization, I'm a survivor of this organization. It's unbelievable. So here's this one.
Problems at CPS for months, and we uncovered additional concerns about how at-risk children are treated.
ABC 15's Navita Fergani spoke with a former CPS worker who says some caseworkers just aren't doing their job.
That's right, Steve and Katie. This caseworker actually worked for Arizona CPS, but quit because she was so frustrated with the system. And in my exclusive interview with her, she goes into great detail about how some caseworkers use shortcuts and others abused power during their investigation.
It's the agency responsible for protecting Arizona's children.
The mission of the government, I think, it is to keep kids safe.
But one former CPS caseworker who asked us to hide her identity says Arizona's system is broken.
When you worked for CPS, did you feel that children slipped through the cracks?
Absolutely.
This former worker blames mistakes on a lack of accountability. And during her time with CPS, she says she was shocked at the confessions her colleagues would make.
Drive-bys are when you literally drive by the house. You don't actually stop and you don't do what's called due diligence. There were a couple of workers that would say, do you actually go out and knock at the door? And I'm like, yeah. Well, I do drive-bys. And I'm like, what is a drive-by? Oh, I just drive down the street. You don't knock? No. I've just driven down the street. It's nothing. You know, this report is really nothing.
She recalls one situation where she claims a child under state custody died from natural causes, and the caseworker didn't know anything about it.
He didn't know the sex of the kid, and he didn't know that the kid had passed away.
But CPS Child Welfare Program Administrator Deborah Harper disagreed with those claims in an April interview.
But do you feel that cases slip through the cracks?
From my perspective, I don't see that.
We've also uncovered court paperwork supporting the claims of some parents who say caseworkers abuse their power. We found court documents of an open case where a judge goes on the record claiming a caseworker made up her mind to take away the children because she didn't like that the parents didn't react quickly enough during the initial visit.
Is that right?
He accuses the caseworker of, quote, getting ticked off, unquote. And the judge believes that's why the children were taken away. And this former CPS employee tells me that's not an isolated incident.
They know that they have the power. People who have some perceived power, when you have the ability to do those things and somebody pisses you off, yeah, it can happen. Should it happen? Absolutely not.
But DES Director Clarence Carter tells me in a past interview that abuse of power doesn't exist within his agency.
Is there a generic issue with caseworkers bullying in our system? There is not.
Okay,
and that former employee that we talked to, while she did say that there are some caseworkers that abuse the system, she did want to point out that there are others that truly care about the kids and practice due diligence. I currently have an ongoing request with DES trying to get the exact numbers of just how many caseworkers have neglected their investigations. And Katie and Steve, as soon as we get that, I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for it. Thanks, Navita.
I worked in a lot of these environments. I could tell you that there are a few good people in these organizations. I'll say very few. I don't want to be judgmental, but I'm just telling you that opening shot in the Arizona building, that's the exact building in New Mexico down in Albuquerque. It looks just like that. When I was in the group home, I mean, they bring us there for all kinds of things, classes and, how to make a resume and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that shot freaked me out. It brought back some memories. It was a hard time for me as a young kid in this system. I mean, nobody really, really knows what I went through. It was horrible. I mean, a godforsaken place. Man, it's bringing me right to that video. Son of a buck. Well, Victoria Martin is Albuquerque's little angel, brutally raped, choked, murdered, high on meth. Mind you, I think she was like 7 or 8 years old. There was plenty of signs, my friends, let me tell you, and everybody blew it from the schools to CPS on this little angel. No doubt the worst case of child abuse I have ever seen in my life. I'm going to play this video, but I am not going to guarantee you I won't jerk another tear.
Today we learned more about the charges against the 3 suspects in Victoria's murder. And there are some details that we have chosen not to report because, frankly, they are just too graphic. Even so, we want to warn you, some may find this information disturbing. News 13's Lizzie Mitri is live at UNM Hospital. Lizzie?
Dean, while Victoria's mom and her boyfriend are behind bars tonight, APD tells us Jessica Kelly is here at the hospital recovering from a broken leg after she jumped off a balcony on the 2nd floor trying to escape police.
What happened to this little girl? It's horrific. It's one of the worst things I've ever read in my entire life.
A criminal complaint shows police got to the Northwest Albuquerque apartment after 4:30 yesterday morning to find 10-year-old Victoria dismembered, wrapped in a burning blanket in an attempt to dispose of her body. Victoria's mother, Michelle Martins, Martin's boyfriend of 1 month, Fabian Gonzalez, and his cousin, Jessica Kelly, face charges including child abuse resulting in death and kidnapping.
I tried my best to protect Michelle and the baby.
Gonzalez and Martins met on the dating site plentyoffish.com. Martins told police Gonzalez's cousin got out of prison days earlier and she let Kelly stay with them. She says her boyfriend and his cousin gave her daughter meth and she watched as Gonzalez raped and strangled Victoria before Kelly did more harm to the 10-year-old.
Michelle, what happened? From a conversation with the detectives, no, there was absolutely no remorse on the mom's part.
It's horrible. Being a mom myself, I could never imagine my child being in danger and to be the parent who's putting your child in danger.
Kristen Dowling says she knew the family until about a year ago and that Martins had been a great mother, but she recently took a turn for the worst.
A couple days ago, I saw Michelle and she was a completely different person.
In court today, a judge set bond for Martins and her boyfriend at $1 million cash only. While Gonzalez was quiet today, last night he told us his cousin is to blame for Victoria's murder.
That's because Jessica Kelly did it.
Coward.
A neighbor was the one to call police yesterday after Gonzalez and Martins knocked on the door, claiming that Kelly hit them over the head with an iron. Now, Kelly is expected to be booked into jail as soon as she's released from the hospital. Back to you.
Okay, Lizzie, thank you. As for Martins and Gonzalez, jail officials tell us they will be housed away from other prisoners. And because of the nature of this crime, they will each have an individual guard standing by.
Kelly and Gonzalez have both spent time behind bars. Kelly was released from prison just 10 days ago. In 2013, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison for raping a woman with a fellow inmate. Those charges were dismissed, but she was convicted of conspiracy to commit that crime. She served 2 years, but was sent back to prison after she was caught with drugs. Just a couple years ago, Gonzalez had been arrested for domestic violence, child abuse, and child abandonment. Those cases did not involve Victoria Martins. KRQE has learned Gonzalez took a plea deal in those cases and should have been on supervised probation, but he wasn't. We'll tell you why as our special assignment team digs for answers at 10:15.
As for Michelle Martins, her record appears clean. People are calling these 3 suspects monsters, murderers, and much worse.
I know they're going to get what's coming to them.
I don't think I could stand in front of them right now.
People in Albuquerque are outraged and taking to social media to blast the three people police say murdered little Victoria, especially her mother. Michelle Martin's Facebook page has dozens of angry comments. She's told to rot in prison, called an evil soul, along with some names that we cannot even show you. Jessica Kelly's Facebook is also filled with venom. Others hit the airwaves on the radio with KKOB to give their thoughts.
If this isn't something that should result in the death penalty, I don't know what does.
The death penalty is definitely on the table for this one.
The death penalty, if we'd had it in the state, it wouldn't have stopped these monsters.
No death penalty. You, Mr. and Mrs. New Mexico, have paid for it all. Not like the money is the issue. We had a beautiful young lady, a little girl, 10 years old, just a little innocent girl with a disturbed mother that allowed men to rape her. Listen, do you think it wasn't just that day? No, my friends, no. This girl, the teachers noticed she was coming in with lipstick on and makeup, and she was a bit kind of off. That should have been reported. CPS should have done something about that immediately, and this went on for a very long time. This dirty, filthy mother, I don't even know how you could call her that, was selling her child to filthy men, pedophiles. How could that happen? They gave this poor kid methamphetamine. The poor little thing. She didn't even have a chance. And do you know it was just her birthday? I believe the day before. How could a human being do that to a child? Listen, man. It was much worse than that. She wasn't just brutally raped, murdered, choked. They dismembered her body. They put her in the bathtub and set her on fire. This was right over here, man. 10 minutes from this place here. Just down the street. In an apartment building where people were all around that apartment in their apartments. Nobody heard a thing, nor did they report it. You have to question everything, folks. You got to keep an eye on these little ones. I'm telling you, these demons will, they'll do what they want, and they don't care what you think. It's a shame. Little Victoria Martin did not deserve to die that way, nor does any child or any person. These people are among us. Now, let me tell you the unfortunate part of that whole story. The cousin, I believe, got 44 years. I think the mother's a lifer. And old Fabian, oddly enough, got out of jail and roamed around Rio Rancho for a year on a house monitor system, which he didn't abide by. Oh, that's right. That's right. He's damn lucky I didn't run into him. I'm not even going to, I'm just telling you right now, because I'll tell you, boy, if nothing boils my blood more is that these evil demons that hurt children. Oh, how dare them. Imagine your kid in Victoria Martin's situation. This is something you couldn't. My son Jacob, that kid used to run off in the stores. Oh my God. We'd have to chase him down. I mean, those are the places too. They see a kid running, they grab that kid, and they run right out the door. And it happens so fast that there's nothing you can do. It's over. Once they got the kid, then you have a whole new battle ahead of you, a whole new thing that you have to do because they're gone. You have to watch the children. You have to protect the children. You have to. The drugs are so bad. And listen, this was, well, fentanyl, I'm not sure how long that's been around, but this was meth days. It's like 7 years ago, maybe a little longer, I don't know. And That meth is just an evil drug, man. Makes people do evil things that people wouldn't normally do. I mean, I don't forgive the mother because she was high on meth. I don't. Because it was ongoing. I mean, men raped that poor little girl every single day. And they sent her off to school that way. How sick are you? And, folks, it's happening right now as we're listening to this show. Maybe down the street from you. You have no idea. Sick, sick world with sick, sick people. At least I didn't cry, because when I cut the video, I'm telling you, man, I just lost it. I lost it. She was such a pretty little girl. She had such a bright future. I mean, my God. Oh, boy, I just don't know. I don't know how we're going to deal with this, folks, but let me tell you, it's a crazy world, and you're going to have to get thick skin, man, because it's going to get a lot worse. So let's go ahead and break loose for a minute. Grab your munchies, your beer, whatever you do. Go to the little restroom, little boys' room, little girls' room. We'll be back in hour 2 with Natasha Timpani. And remember, we use copyright-free music from In Audio by Infraction, featuring composers like Infraction, Moko, Cold Cinema, Alexi Action, just to name a few. Look them up on YouTube, sub them, and if you're a creator, this is an excellent resource for your projects without worrying about copyright issues. It's true, man. Great stuff. That's the music you're hearing in the background. Very affordable. Some of the best music for creating. So go check them out, man. We'll be right back. Hold tight. Hour 2. Doing a little something different tonight with the music. I hope you like it. Hour 2, JP here, the Paradigm Shift, groundzero.radio. You're listening to groundzero.radio, groundzeromedia.org, studiojfm.com. Please share those links right now so others can enjoy the show too. Don't forget, you can give to our little giddy up over here at Studio J on the evil PayPal, Joe Imagine at yahoo.com. That's how you do that. And our guest, Natasha, is a wonderful person. She's a protector of the children, owner at Leveled Up Entertainment, a good friend of mine, and she's a brave lady, and she's got a heart for the children, and she's done some good work for the last 4 years. So let's go ahead and cut this off. We don't want to be fumbly here. Just messing with you, dude. All right, here's Natasha. Hold tight. Hello, Natasha. How are you tonight?
I'm not feeling the best tonight, but I'm here.
Well, thanks
So
for
just
being
bear
here.
with me, everybody. It took me a lot to make sure I'm here, but I think it's important.
Well, thank you for coming on the Paradigm Shift, and it is important. It's very important because of everything going on. So go ahead and tell we have just a slew of new listeners. So go ahead and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Natasha Timpani, and for the last, I guess it's been 4 years now, I have been working with survivors. I've been a truth teller and an advocate for children all around the world.
Well, thank you for doing that. Tough job indeed.
Yes, which, so let's see, we have not talked about what we were going to discuss today.
Right, I know, we're just going off the cuff.
Which I find very interesting because we always do.
Right.
This is my third time on here.
Yes, it is.
And that's going to lead me to what I'm going to talk about today.
It's all yours. Take the stage. We've got a good, 45, 50 minutes. So plenty of room for whatever you want to talk about.
All right, let's see. So to start, first off, I'm a little bit of a control freak. Not necessarily a good thing, but normally I have my research. I'm very well prepared. I have notes that I can give dates and times. And for whatever reason, all week while I was trying to prepare, there was something that was getting in the way of me completing this research.
Ah, interesting.
And I couldn't figure out what it was. I honestly just kept thinking, I'm being lazy. What is wrong with me? And then I started feeling really sick, and I've been sleeping for almost 24 hours straight, just off and on.
Oh my gosh.
And I woke up, and the answer that I got was, you're not supposed to throw more dates, facts, information at people.
Okay.
We need to address unifying. We need to address how we solve the problem,
Correct.
which again is unity. Okay. And maybe reach out and give a little bit of love and support to all of the people that have been in this battle for the last 4+ years.
Sure.
God bless anybody who's been in it longer than 4 years. I don't know how you guys have found the strength.
Right.
Because I personally am exhausted, and it's only been 4 years for me. So thank you. Thank you. God bless you all.
Absolutely.
And then also for anybody that's new, maybe try to reach them from a more human aspect, as opposed to spitting facts at them or dates or what may seem like talking down to those that don't know what's going on.
Okay.
So the first thing I'm going to say is when I first started preparing to come on, I thought, what since last August has happened that, we would need to talk about. We have the so-called list or non-list.
Right.
Has come out, which is a big one. We have the tunnels in New York,
yes,
which is a big one. We have the fighting in Israel and Palestine.
Correct.
Which is a big one. And we have a lot of exposure throughout the United States with trafficking rings and who is found to be a large proponent of them or supporter or the leader. And it goes back to teachers, officers of the court, just everyday people, but people in positions of power. Those are all important things that are being shown. And for anybody who's been in this fight for a while, I just want to pose a question. Does anybody else feel like this is deja vu? Like from 4 years ago, as we're seeing things, and I hate the term circle back.
Right.
But
right.
Absolutely hate that.
Yeah.
But if we circle back, everything that's coming out now is just more widely exposed to the same info that we were seeing 4 years ago. We've got Pizzagate,
right,
Epstein, the tunnels, all of these things. And we're seeing new people discovering this information and they're sharing it. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but every time I see something, I'm like, but we already said that.
Right. We've already told you that years ago.
Yeah, we've already played this game. Like, I want off this ride.
Yeah, no kidding. It's been a hard one.
It has been a hard one. But also there's a big lesson in that it's God's timing.
Absolutely.
As much as, especially people like me who are control freaks, can't handle that, we're like, but there's people suffering, there's children suffering.
Absolutely.
It is God's timing. And you cannot tell people, you have to show them.
Yeah.
And we've said that many, many, many times.
It's the roughest part of this whole ordeal is that we have to burden that, pain until they wake up.
And we also have to suffer that pain. And that's kind of our penance also, so that we don't repeat this mistake ever again.
It's got to stop so generations to come won't fall into these terrible, evil things.
Mm-hmm. So that also brings me to, everybody keeps saying, what do we do? How do we solve the problem? How do I help? And I think do I have the answer? No, not entirely. But I think it is a multi-pronged solution. Part of that is unity, which is the biggest hurdle that we're going to have to overcome.
Seems to be the big problem, that people don't want to unite.
It is a problem because I don't think we know, and this is just as much, truth tellers' fault,
right,
as it is those that are just waking up. And I'll just give an example of how I'm guilty and didn't realize this until today, I guess. As I'm talking to people and sharing information, and you see the basic answer of you're insane, you're crazy, which, by the way, for any of us truth tellers, that doesn't hurt our feelings right. any longer. It did 4 years ago.
Yeah, but we're thick-skinned.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't do anything.
Right.
We have to be. Yes, you're right. But that's for the kids. But that's what people do when they don't have anything else better to say to, state their frustrations.
Sure.
Same with when my response. So, for example, I got flagged on TikTok, which really made me mad.
You got what on TikTok?
Flagged, or one of those.
Oh, I see.
Because I called someone a moron. And that really made me mad because I'm thinking, you're allowing all this pedophilic,
right.
discussions and talk and pictures, but I say someone's a moron and that's a bad thing. But the lesson in it was that's not only the intelligent way to go about getting through to someone,
right.
but that was, instead of me thinking of a better way to try to get through to this person, I fell into the easy, well, you're just an idiot, so I'll just brush that off.
Just jumped into the flesh.
Yeah, I was like, you're a moron. That doesn't help anything.
But but I get it too. On our side is that, do you really want to waste your time with people like this? But sometimes it gets the best of you, and you're standing for a very good cause, and this person is actually ignorant.
True, but a better response is, and first off, there's a lot of bots out there.
Right.
So there's a lot
of
distractions for those of us that are trying to explain the truth. We're arguing with, a robot, literally, it's AI. It's not a person.
It's crazy.
And that's how they keep us out of the fight. So when you start to see someone push back too much, a better answer would be, either you are a bot.
Right.
You are one of them because they're, if they're making excuses, or you aren't ready yet. And when you are, you know where to find us.
We're here.
This isn't our first, our first rodeo. We've had waves of people that have woken up in the last few years and then move on.
We're not really here to convince them of what we already know. We're just here to, bring the truth. Whether they want to accept it or not, it's up to them.
True. And sometimes they have to see it multiple times over.
Wow.
But talking about the tunnels and in New York,
right.
I don't know the gentleman that kept saying, you guys are going to think I'm nuts, but I hear something underneath my floorboards. There's no basement. I swear I hear Yiddish, and everybody was saying, you're crazy. You're crazy. And then he was right.
There they are.
And then he was like, some of you owe me an apology. Use that, as a good example of, sometimes things that are fantastical to us,
right,
that are not of the norm, are real. And you have to use common sense. You have to dig a little deeper. You have to come at everything from a place of love.
There you go. The strongest power in the universe.
And I'm saying this to the truthers just as much because I lose my cool frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only way to solve this problem is through unity. And it is a time, if we can't see it very clearly, it is a time that people are are more conditioned and have seen enough breadcrumbs, so to speak,
Right.
that when there's these exposures, it's like that light bulb. Aha. Okay, this makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Which again makes sense why we've been told to breadcrumb so that people can get to that conclusion on their own.
Sure. They have to, get there and research it on their own for sure.
They have to. And so instead of maybe drilling facts, or throwing information at people, we've been told before, ask people questions, let people think for themselves. Not everybody is going to make it to the end.
Right.
But those that are supposed to, they're not going to get there because we keep drilling information at them. They have to start thinking for themselves, looking at pattern recognition,
right,
which is what conspiracy theorists are. We recognize different patterns.
We do, definitely, yes.
So think about with the tunnels, look at the location right across from a children's museum.
Right. And they're already denying that claim, but it's very true.
All you have to do is put in the address and,
there you
know, I mean, that's the thing is it's really easy to be told something, which again is why you have to make people think for themselves.
Right. Because they trust the media saying something like, well, that was a false claim that, there was the tunnel was right there going near that child's museum.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
They can deny it all they want, but you just have to put the coordinates into MapQuest and boom, it's right there.
Technology is going to bust all these people, I'm telling you.
It certainly is, which, for those that believe in, Q and all of that and the operation, it's interesting how the internet really has not been utilized by the other side, but it has been a fantastic tool and way to expose the truth for the masses.
They have the media, which does hold a great deal of power, but they rely on that power because, quite frankly, they're all covering for themselves,
Exactly. They're all covering for themselves, which again is why we can never, until we unify, cannot stop these crimes against children and against humanity.
That's true.
Because they do operate the highest echelons. So it doesn't matter unless we all unify, and it's strength in numbers to take that power away from them. We won't ever be able to shut down CPS. We won't ever be able to, prevent.
Organization needs to be shut down.
Absolutely. It is absolutely horrific. I'm in these groups and these poor parents and also, children that grew up. You're one of them.
Right.
That was a victim of that system speaking out. It is so heartbreaking.
You know what gets me is that, yes, I am a victim of that system. And that was a really long time ago. And that system is stronger and more divisive and evil, in my opinion, today. And
absolutely.
And it's fully funded by you and me.
Exactly. Exactly. But as soon as, we join together, as soon as we start saying, look at, and then give some different avenues for them to look, give them, a testimonial. I think testimonials by victims, I hate using the word victim, survivor,
sure.
Those are the most powerful because that invokes that emotion, and emotion creates a reaction.
Right.
And reaction makes movement and change. So to direct them to hear, I'm sorry.
We got to tug at people's hearts.
We have to tug at people's hearts. And the other side does that as well when we try to point something out and they try to make it, like we're trying to victimize a certain group. Like when we're trying to speak truths about, and I know this is a touchy one for a lot of people, but it's not the Jewish religion, but the Jewish race and what they stand for. and the evil that they believe in.
Right.
And for all those, Catholics, I was baptized Catholic. It's also controlled by the Jewish race. They try to make it like we're victimizing a group of people, and that's not the case. We're trying to point out truths and facts and things hidden in the darkness that good people would not partake in.
Right. I mean, it's hard to believe, folks are like, this is impossible, but we are seeing a pattern now for sure, even if you're a normie, and I hate to call them normies, but, people are starting to wake up big time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are starting to wake up. And you're right, there's a pattern to it. And we have to point out, as things are coming up, again, this is not to instill hatred towards a certain group or, divisiveness. It's, again, to make people start looking into things that are occurring. And when they say, oh, that's not possible, did anybody think it was possible for the government to shut us down?
There you go. I mean,
did anybody think it was possible while we were screaming at the top of our lungs that injection was not a good thing?
Right.
The nefarious motives behind that. Now we see that to be true. Did anybody think, when Epstein, was arrested and we said that there was all these elites that, were connected with him and participated in horrific, crimes against children? Did anybody want to believe that? No, but we're seeing that to be true. So for one, stop trying to say that could never happen. I think we've already been shown absolutely insane, horrific things are very, very possible of occurring.
Absolutely. Unfortunately.
So,
yeah.
Unfortunately. So that's not a good excuse. We have to also be gentle with ourselves. Every single one of us at one time was completely fooled.
Right. For sure.
We're not blaming anybody and saying, oh, it's your fault for being fooled. That's not the case. But it is time to start joining together and saying, how do we change what is occurring? How do we take back the power? And the only way is to join together.
So
stop calling each other insane.
So when we join together, I personally see a point where we could all meet at the same place, and that would start with the school system. I mean,
absolutely.
Some really bad practitioners in school systems that are a part of this system.
Absolutely. And we have to look at how they got there also, where they're connected as far as the government, where they're connected. And again, I think I said this every time that I've been on your show, follow the money.
Right. Every time.
Every single time it's follow the money.
That's where you'll get the corruption for sure.
That's where you get the corruption. Yeah.
So how do we change? Well, see, I say the school system because parents have kids, and that's where we all kind of have this common bond is the public school system. So what do parents do? Do we get involved? Do we, get on the school board? I mean, how can we make some real serious changes to get these, I call them commies, out of our school system?
My solution is I would say just pull your kids from the public school system.
And that hits them in the pocket too.
That's the point, is you have to hit them in the pocket first. And I know that there's a lot of people that are saying, well, but I don't have the resources to put my children in private school, or I have to work. Who's going to watch my kids during the day?
For sure.
The majority of us can't afford, private school. We can't afford not to go to work.
Right.
And that's where we have to join together in the communities. There are stay-at-home moms. So, in your communities, start banding together. There's those, and I can't stand the Nextdoor app because I feel like it's one of the worst as far as, people just bashing on each other. But again, it's another resource to see who is in your community. And if there's a few stay-at-home moms, obviously do your due diligence, check out that individual, their home, or whether you, rent a resource center nearby, and join together and figure out who can watch the kids, and band together, help each other out.
I mean, it's going to take a lot of effort for people to really, make this change. And I mean, it's not impossible at all. Like you said, you get into the community, you gather up, you say, hey, look, this is what's happening in our schools. You go to a PTA meeting and you could all meet there, and you could make demands, but you could still make another effort to at least start a project right in your own community. Somebody homeschool all those kids, and everybody chips in, and it'd probably be a lot cheaper. The only problem is you're still paying your school tax, but hey, my kids are all grown up and I'm still paying it too. So there you go.
I'm not.
You're not?
I'm not. I have not been paying taxes for the last year and some odd months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because that's, again, the only way that we can stop them from utilizing our hard-earned dollars.
And I always say that too, like if we could really organize, the heck with the government, we could organize just for everybody to stop paying for 3 days. That's all it would take. That would
3 days. Thank you for saying that. Yes,
literally
it is
shut the government down.
3 days that it takes. 3 days.
That's all it would take. You take 3 days off from work. You take 3 days off from taxes. You take 3 days off from everything. Everybody, we shut it down for 3 days, including your taxes. Do it on tax day, the 15th.
Yep, exactly. 3 days. That's all that it takes. And stop with everything. It hits them so hard. Then we have the upper hand in this fight then.
Right. And people don't believe that because they think people think that they don't have the power, but we're really way more than them. And we do have that power.
We do have that power. And it is fear, again, that drives everything.
Right.
Understandably. But, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
They can't lock all of us up. They can't punish all of us.
Right.
And look, okay, prime example, look at what's going on in Texas. They stood, they have the National Guard out there.
Right.
The Biden administration, went ahead and they threatened, and Texas stood strong. And now we have what? Arkansas, I think, is sending National Guard to help.
Right.
Was it Florida? There was a few others that I saw. Again, I didn't write down any facts
They're
for this.
arresting them and taking them out. That's what we need to deport. I mean, this invasion on the border is not just about the integrity of our country. Think of all the children that are being abused through those journeys.
The children that are being abused, and look at our children being abused, being ripped out of their own schools so that we can house the immigrants. But again, don't you see all of this is happening because we have to see it to believe it?
Exactly.
What is the one way that you break programming is that something so fantastical or crazy or out of the norm triggers that logical portion of your prefrontal cortex to start going, something doesn't seem right.
Right.
Then you start to dig. When you're questioning, you start to dig. You start to look further into it. That's how you break the programming. I hate to say, for all those that are like, oh, this is not an operation. How can you say that it's not? Everything that we're seeing, it seems a little too orchestrated in a way to wake up, those normies. And again, sorry we don't have a better term for you guys. It's not meant to be mean. We all were one at one point.
I think that it seems for a very long time, people have a very great trust in the government. And even though we're just barely seeing to break it now, people still trust the government. They, God forbid something dramatic happens. They want the government to absolutely take care of them.
Part of that is we have gotten lazy.
Right.
Myself included. We want things to run so that we can just enjoy ourselves and not be responsible, not only for governing ourselves, but for all the institutions that are around. But just like we have to be responsible for our children, we have to first be responsible for ourselves. Otherwise, there is no future.
Exactly.
And we have to start thinking about the right questions to ask as well. And, the truthers are just as much to blame, because what did we do? We had this big push for, show us the list, show us the list.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the list, because if you think about it and dig a little deeper, how many ways can that be, just brushed aside as, okay, so what? So they were associated with people.
Wow. That's what we
I don't know how many people know, but I was involved pretty heavily with the independent film industry. So anybody, when they do a high level, search on me, they could go, oh, she's in on it. She's one of them, No.
I got a page too, but people know better because I'm blabbing every week.
See? So it's like, no, and as soon as I did see things that were going on, I kind of ducked out. But
Literally,
no, not everybody's involved.
Left, right? So
what?
Literally exit stage left. I met some really solid people in the industry, but 85% of it was exactly what we're talking about tonight, and I too could not deal with that at all.
Yeah, that was really that's a whole nother topic, and nobody needs to. Okay. I'm not the priority here to say how heartbreaking that was to me, but that was devastating. But again, that's really easy then for people to say, well, just because they were associated with Epstein doesn't mean that they're guilty of the crimes against children.
Sure.
People don't tend to look and think further when they see that list. That list, first of all, wasn't a list. It was names that were brought up by the prosecution in one survivor's or multiple survivors' testimony.
Right, exactly.
Now, people are going, oh, well, they just said, did you see this person? And the answer was, not necessarily involved in nefarious activities. Well, let's think further. Why would the prosecutor even be bringing up that name unless there was evidence or reason that name was being mentioned to begin with? But nobody wants to look further from that. But the real question is the tapes.
Right.
Where are, and we don't have to see the tapes.
No, of course not.
But who was on those tapes? Where's that list? And why aren't they being prosecuted? Why haven't they been arrested? Nothing is happening with that.
There's enough on Bill Clinton that he should be in handcuffs regardless of his age.
Absolutely. There's pictures of him with minors. And for anybody to say, oh, they just went to the island for a vacation. Come on.
Right.
Use your brain. That island was not set up, as a place to go on vacation.
No, not at all.
And there's a reason why there were cameras all over that island to catch people in the acts that they were going there to participate in.
Big blackmail operation.
It was a total honeypot operation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But again, even with the tapes, so people started saying, where's the tapes? And then you look at, and again, I don't have my facts here, but the survivor in 2017 who had said that she had video evidence of Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and there was one other individual, committing acts of violence and, horrific things against children. And then when she was actually under oath, she said she did not have those tapes, that she was saying that to try to draw attention to, Epstein and the issue. People are taking that and using that as, a way to negate the fact that the tapes are real. You have to look at 2019 and what the FBI stated, and it was some 422 million hours or something of, tapes on the servers. There was books of CDs, but people just look at the quick, way that they're brushing off this information. So we have to, again, be very factual, very to the point, and pose questions for people to think for themselves and look further. Pose the question of why are they so quick to brush this off?
Sure.
And not let up. And again, there's a lot of survivors that will say, why are we focused on the elites so much? When it happens every day in our own backyard.
That's true. Yeah. People will
focus on the elites is they're the ones that are up. They hold the power in all factions. And unless we expose that they are in on it, we, the people, can never gain control and power, and we will constantly be fighting a losing battle.
That's true.
We have to show why, this continues to occur.
It's got to be at the top.
It's got to be at the top. Yep. Yeah. So,
do you think anything is going to come out of all that Epstein stuff? Do you think they're actually going to arrest people and we're going to see Bill Clinton in handcuffs? Do you think any of that stuff is going to make a difference?
Yeah.
Should. You do? Oh, good.
I do, because if it doesn't, then we completely fail.
Because I think people's attitudes are, well, nothing's going to happen to them. They're the elites. They have all the money. I mean, that's how people think,
That's what we've seen time and time again, right?
Right.
But again, how many more people are awake to what's going on now than in the past?
Right.
How many more of us are standing and shouting at the top of our lungs?
Correct.
Quite a few in numbers. How many more of us are there than them?
There's a bunch more.
And what's the outcome if we don't? We're all enslaved. Humanity will continue to be abused. Our children will be raped, tortured, killed. We will be in shackles and lose all freedoms. And God loses? That's not an option.
No, God doesn't lose, as we know.
That's not an option. So, yeah, it'll happen. It's happening in God's time.
There you go. You said that.
And it's happening the way it's meant to happen. We just have to stay the course.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
That is definitely the hard part.
I'm always engulfed in the battle because, like a good friend of ours always says, that, it doesn't matter whose kids they are. We're standing up for all of them. We'll fight for your kids. But, researching shows and because we're going to be doing a lot of stuff this year on the children, it's really hard to consume. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and we got to be strong, people. That's the key.
Yeah, it's extremely heartbreaking. Again, like I said, I feel like it's deja vu with the Pizzagate stuff coming around. You'll see Frazzle Drip coming around again. And there's a lot of us that have been exposed to that content. And it kills your spirit and your soul. And it's hard to hear and see the videos of, Podesta at Pizzagate with, that little boy. And just every time my whole body just like convulses, and I'm just hysterically crying, and you just feel sick to your stomach. And then you go outside and you see some little child just happy and bouncing around and smiling. And
right. Innocent kid.
Innocent,
right.
And it's hard to see that reality. But what's the other option? That you turn a blind eye and that smiling little child ends up potentially, being victimized, or, the children that are suffering, or the ones that do they deserve justice? Absolutely.
Of course.
And for me, I don't care if it's 50 years later, everybody deserves to have that justice, to be acknowledged for the crimes that were committed against them and against humanity in general. We should all be absolutely outraged and demanding justice, because we are all victims to some extent,
of course,
of what's going on.
Absolutely.
So we have to keep talking about it.
That has to happen, definitely.
That has to happen. We have to pose questions. We have to be kinder to each other. which is really hard to do. I understand.
Yep.
And we have to start thinking, in clever ways of basically beating them at their own game. I'll give a prime example. So with the books in the libraries that have pornographic or very inappropriate grooming material for the children.
Right.
Okay. People were going to their, public meetings and they were saying that they wanted that content removed. And it was kind of an unsuccessful venture.
Unbelievable.
So what do? We take a group of people and we know what those titles of those books are, and take your library card and you go check that material out, and you don't return it.
Exactly.
And they sit there and then they fine you and you don't pay it.
Right.
If you need to put a card down, that's one of those, Visa debit, like gift cards. Cool. They can try to charge that all day long. That's never going to happen. Good luck with that one. And then what do? They just replace the books. So then you have the next individual go in, check out those books, remove them from the ability of a child going in and checking out that material.
Unbelievable.
Why haven't we done simple things like that? There's very highly intelligent people on this planet, way smarter than I am. We have to think, 5D chess. We have to think art of war, and we have to put certain, tactics into place to take back that control.
Got to. A liberal guy got into an argument with me about that very situation, stating that Republicans are trying to take books, the book burning, basically. They were trying to equate it to book burning, like we were taking away people's books and burning them. And, I looked at him and I said, you want porno in a child's library? And, he didn't say nothing. He kind of just clammed up. But, that's the argument that they're giving us out there. And a lot of people believe that.
Right. Well, that's a very base level, easy smear.
Professor, by the way.
Well, again, kind of interested in what he stands for then, right?
Exactly. You know who they are when they take that stand.
They end up exposing themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'll know
they do. So
just
out of curiosity, what were you talking about the first hour? Because again, we never.
So what I went into on the first hour, so I knew you were sick. So I was overriding, just so you know. And I'll tell you what happened. Victoria Martin, 7 years ago, was murdered, brutally raped. I mean, you can look the story. It was unbelievable. And I was putting the news clip together, and it literally, I broke down. I was like, oh, my God, Lord, I am not going to be able to run this story. And I, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'll just run it at the mid break because I literally can't sit there. That story just breaks my heart. It was so horrific, and it was just the epitome of evil. And it should have never happened. It happened because CPS didn't follow up, and that's why that story went where it did. So we went into about CPS, and I think I played a clip on how people can protect themselves if CPS shows at the door, because a lot of the times now CPS is taking away kids from perfectly innocent homes that have done nothing wrong.
84%.
84%. And it's become a big business for them,
That's exactly what it is. It's a huge racketeer.
And we talked about Megan Walsh because she was on the last show in 2023 because her father's show is coming out this Monday, and she has a lot to say about CPS and John Walsh, and she's a good soul. She's one of us for sure.
Yeah, she is. Her newest little one. I know the father, and not saying I think he's a great person or anything, but I've been connected to that story, and she's been speaking out for years, and some people have been listening,
right?
But not enough.
It's true.
But you need to look at not only what she's saying, but start start looking into what she's saying and think if it makes sense. Now, her father having those children removed, why is he not taking custody
Exactly.
of her little ones unless there's more nefarious motives? Ask any grandfather out there. If your child really is an unfit parent, first off, are you not going to try to get them help and step in and take care of your grandbabies?
Right.
And then especially having as much power and control as he does, why is he not just stepping up? But why, if those children, once they're removed, why aren't they going into his custody?
Right. I mean, it's a very unusual situation, but
he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. And I think, with all the questions surrounding Adam's alleged murder, and we say it that way for a reason. I mean, God bless Megan. She's doing a re-examination. Her podcast is on Saturday nights, and they talk about, the murder of, alleged murder of Adam Walsh. Very terrible story. And John Walsh is all over that thing,
Mm-hmm. Well, and then just to bring that up when we're talking, the alleged murder, and then you start looking at, other celebrities and certain losses that they've had. And,
Sure.
People can say, oh, it's a coincidence. Well, first off, how many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible?
I was just going to say that. It's true, though.
It is true. It is very true.
Pattern that just keeps continuing on. I really did thank God this morning that some people are really starting to wake up. I mean, good old Mr. and Mrs. America, people like me and you, blue collar workers that are finally, because, they've been glued to CNN or Fox for God knows how long, but they're finally starting to see this. The beauty of the internet and technology, I really believe God is using this in a great way because, people have to see it for themselves. I mean, if you were going to accept God, you'd have to experience that for yourself before you do that. And I think the same kind of thing is going on here with all this, even though evil is using it, at least for now,
Right. But I do see everything as two sides to the same coin. For every nefarious purpose, there's a good, side that can be utilized or is being utilized. You just have to look at both sides and recognize where that good can be utilized or is being utilized.
Right. I mean, God will take what's bad and use it for his good, as it says in the good word. One thing just came to my mind. It's totally off script, and we don't even have one, so
we don't know.
We're doing great. We always talk really good. You're like one of my favorite guests on the show.
Oh, thank you.
JonBenet Ramsey, which goes way back to the evil days of Colorado. I mean, here's a story of a perfect little girl that, disappeared and was murdered. And to this day, we still don't have answers, but we know something satanic was involved.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Ghislaine Maxwell actually worked for the law firm that JonBenet Ramsey's father was working for.
There you go. Wow.
Yep. At that time. Exact time.
I don't know if he's still alive, but he was, standing up for his innocence for a very long time. He got a little airport out there in the middle of nowhere, him and his new wife, and they used to have a podcast. I don't know if he's still around, but who knows?
I believe he is, but I'm not entirely possible. I'm not sure.
Another ripping story from our souls. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody's children disappear. Doesn't matter if they're famous or not,
Mm-mm. Well, they weren't famous before. That story was made famous.
Right. Well, he did have a little fame because he did invent something I can't remember in the computer ages of the 80s that made him very wealthy, but he wasn't a celebrity or anything,
Right.
And it was
right.
a great drag on the family as well. The whole thing was just very tremendously terrible. The community gets tore up by these events, and Victoria Martin, literally the apartment that happened at was literally like a 10-minute drive from my house, and just you would not think that kind of stuff would happen in your community.
It happens. Yeah, I think and again, don't quote me, I could be wrong, but in every neighborhood, they're saying like 3 out of 10 homes are involved in satanic practices, satanic ritual. That's, their religion is, they believe so strongly, and they practice sometimes in plain sight, but, in the dark.
Right. That's how they operate.
That's how they operate. And one of the things that I try to explain to people, because that's, it's as you breadcrumb, and give information.
Right.
You don't want to start out with, this is a satanic Luciferian Rand cult that, rapes your children. People are like, okay, that person's a whack job. I'm not going to listen to anything they say.
Exactly.
It seems really fantastical.
Right.
But getting to that point now where people are like, they know enough is going on that they're like, but what motivates these people? And you have to say, it doesn't matter if you believe, they believe.
Exactly.
Strongly enough in what they are supporting and that their religion, that it doesn't matter if it's fantastical to you or not. They believe it.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, if anything, you can actually pray under your breath for these people in your community. I mean, they do exist. And I was just thinking about my street. There's 20 houses on my street, and I'm thinking, okay, that's 6 houses at least. And, I could pull out 6 houses in my neighborhood that I could probably say that's happening. So that's scary.
Right?
I live in a nice neighborhood, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, and the more that they try to normalize, worshiping Satan,
right?
Not only in the mainstream media, but just these people are starting to expose themselves more and more.
Thank God. Thank God. Then we can move them along. Definitely. I mean, I don't really care what people believe in. I mean, my heart would be that you believe in Jesus, but that's my belief. I don't push it on people, and I don't care if you're a Satanist and you're practicing occult stuff. It's none of my business, really. But when you're hurting children, or you're hurting people, or you're hurting animals, I mean, we, definitely, you got to go to jail.
Yeah.
At the minimum, in my opinion, you should be, if you murder a child, you're immediately executed.
Yeah. There's no cure.
No cure.
There's no reform. That's
I know one cure, but I'll keep it to myself so I don't get in trouble.
That's the cure that I believe in as well. It's you can't fix that kind of evil.
It's insane.
So yeah.
You know what? We burned up almost an hour like nobody's business. It happens every time we're here.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Do you want to plug anything you're doing, or you just want to anything?
I'm just doing what everybody should be doing, which is, just speak with people in your communities, not just high level on the internet and making posts, but just make it an everyday, regular part of conversation, pose questions, meet people in your communities, do some research of your own, figure out real quickly what side you're on, and know
exactly.
Yes, they've gotten us so that we're so distracted and we're exhausted and we're in this constant fight or flight. But take a step back and realize that it's not going to kill you if you stop paying taxes right now to try to prevent, these people from using our funds in inappropriate ways.
Right.
If you take your kids out of school right now, it's not going to ruin the rest of their life, but what they could be involved in and exposed to being in those public schools could have a long-lasting effect. Try to come from a place of love and tolerance. Know that we have to join together, that there's more of us than them.
Unity.
And that's, I think, the most important thing.
All right. Well, we love when you come on, Natasha, and I appreciate you giving us your very valuable time. And we'll get you now. Go get some rest.
I am. I'm going to go to bed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. God bless you.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So, we've always said on this show, unity is the key. It really is. I mean, a house divided will fall. We've heard that before. But unity is absolutely the key to winning this battle we have with evil. It's true. It's true, because most of us are fairly normal and don't. I mean, this kind of stuff is ridiculous. I can't even believe, honestly, it got this far. So when I brought up the schools, this is a good place. In my mind, it is. It's a place where your kids are, all your kids, you're, local, the local level. We need to start talking about this locally. I mean, it's the conversation nobody wants to have. That's the problem with it. So at the local level with the schools, you could certainly start, conversing among yourselves about these situations, these people in our schools, these people that we don't agree with. And then, of course, the ultimatum is to pull your kids out of school, homeschool them. It's very important to protect the children in this arena, as these clowns would call it. They are clowns. They're going to get a clown's reward, too, believe me. Pull your kids out of school and teach them the right, I work, I get it. But wouldn't it be, I always say on this show, tribe up, find your tribe, right? Find your 5-mile radius, right? The people you can rely on, the people you know, because when the big thing comes, you're going to want to be able to communicate with each other and help each other. It's going to be really important in that time. But in the meantime, to build the community, why not homeschool your child and agree to these, a woman that does this with her kid, whatever. You make these agreements. It's important. I mean, that's such a hassle. Well, listen, it's your kids. Well, then kids don't get in sport. You can put them in sports. I mean, there's times now where a kid can get into football. These things are doable. It just depends on how much effort you, the parent, Mr. and Mrs. America, want to put into it. I mean, how concerned are you about your children in the public school system? I mean, listen, at the maximum, you got drag time story hour, right? And at the minimum, you have these very almost communistic people that hate America teaching our children gay stuff. I'm not against gay. Lots of gay friends, believe me. But our kids are innocent, and we need to leave their minds alone. And they don't need to go, reading, writing, arithmetic, just like the old days. Seriously, that's what needs to happen in school. We need to be able to trust our school, teachers and PE coaches that they're not going to molest our children or, belittle them or treat them poorly. I mean, these are the kind of things that are happening. We trust these people, and they failed miserably. Especially CPS of all organizations. Listen, when my mother put me in that home, it was because she was concerned for her son and wanted the best possible thing for him. Meaning she entrusted these animals, and we know how that story went if you're around here some time ago. Parents don't believe these things are happening. They don't want to believe it, especially if it's their child. But I think now we need to pull back the scales from our eyes, and we need to absolutely see at least the stuff that's provable. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, my God. But get to your local community. I know an easy way you can start. Searching the sex offender registry in your community. You'll know where they live. I, too, don't believe there's a cure for that. I don't think these animals, could be reformed. It's just me. But at least know your territory, know your grounds, know your tribe. There's going to be a time where, I've been saying it a long time, but many would agree with me that there's going to be a time where we're going to need each other. I don't know what that means. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm not a psychic. But I know evil people are trying to control our world. Evil people that want your children. We have the WEF. What a joke. Did you see the little ceremony? Yeah. That Native woman was blowing the disease on people in this, satanic ritual. You always wonder who gets those videos and throws them out there, because you would think that security of recording anything at Davos would be important. But we got to see whatever they wanted us to see. You know, they got to tell us what they're going to do to us before they do it. It's kind of part of their sick, satanic ritual. So they got the native lady blowing the virus on everybody with a little noise, with a little noise. These people are evil, man. And they're all pedophiles. And you pay taxes to them. That's the reality. It's a sad reality. So what do? We get involved, right? We get involved. We go to it. Do they have PTA meetings still? Go to those things. Get involved with your school board. Find out. Do research. Find out who the principal is, who the teachers are, who's handling your kids all day. We can't trust these people anymore. The agenda is it's right in your face. You want to sit there and deny it, that's up to you, buddy. I thank the good Lord that my kids aren't, they're adults now. And my son in high school was dealing with some of this. That's when it was really starting. It was some time ago, long time ago. And I really felt sorry for the kid because you could tell that these kids aren't learning anything. But, you know, my son, he latched onto the coach over there, PE coach. Jake likes sports, so, you know, thank God for that. But the school, the policies, the principal, when we started researching, this was not a good place for our child. Matter of fact, we pulled him out of there, and we homeschooled him to the end. Now he runs the accounting department here at iBug Guy. God bless him, you know. Wow. They grow up fast, folks, and I always tell young people, young couples with a baby, you know, love that child, man. It's that baby's going to grow up and be 20 before you know it. And then it's a whole different world. We have to protect our children. There is no doubt evil wants them. We have to go after these organizations that are harming our kids. You don't think this CPS can't take your kid away? I told you tonight they could. It's going to be that kind of world if we let this continue. You know, some people say vote it out. I don't know, man. I'm not saying that we should do, you know, Civil War stuff. Well, it came down to it, but I mean, who knows? You have to protect yourselves. That's all I say. But I certainly can say that we need to protect our children. We need to unite. If it's at the school level, let's do it. Hey, you don't have to have it. Did you know that you don't have to have a kid in school to go to a school board meeting? That's right. So we did it again, folks. Blew out 2 hours like it was nothing. The Paradigm Shift is on every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget, Ground Zero is the place to be on a hot Saturday night lineup. Best of Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. The Paradigm Shift with yours truly. Spooky Actions at a Distance with David Masters, which is next. And the show, I think it's Clyde after that. Clyde Lewis. You know who he is, right? Saturday night is the place to be. I appreciate you listening. You guys are awesome. Keep the emails going. I love it. JP, out.
Sentando pro pai. Tente bater de frente, 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 de frente. Esse aqui só agressivo, deixe sua bunda ardendo. Vai novinha com todo prazer, hoje você tá tarada. Piranha, vai no toma, toma, vai. Toma, toma, toma. Vai, toma, toma, toma. Deixa sua bunda ardendo. Você quer sexo agressivo? Ou deixa sua bunda ardendo? Ou dá tapa, 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 tapa pra cara. Deixa sua bunda ardendo. Deixa sua bunda ardendo. Toma sua safada, quica sua safada, vai. Toma sua safada, quica sua safada, vai, vai. Vem sentando pro pai, pai. Vem sentando pro pai. Vem sentando pro pai, pai. Vem sentando pro pai. Tente bater de frente, 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 de frente. Esse aqui só agressivo, deixa sua bunda ardendo. Piranha, vai no toma, vai. Toma. Vai, toma.
One-stop shop for all things Ground Zero.
Oh, wow.
Show off your style with our exclusive collection of t-shirts and hoodies. They're not just comfortable, they're conversation starters. Need to keep hydrated during those long listen sessions? Get your hands on our durable